Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to England once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that has now featured on the channel a good number of times before. I've had some very nice beers from these guys already, and I've done a good number of reviews from them now, both in the form of collaboration reviews and from reviews of their own beer, solo brewery beer reviews I guess we could say. So these guys are a very well respected brewery, mainly off the back of their New England Hazy IPAs, and it's another one of those that we are going to have a look at today. So for this one we are going to head down to Gloucestershire, kind of in the southwest of England I guess we could say, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Deya Brewing Company, and this will be my fourth solo brewery beer review from these guys I guess we could say. So this particular beer is called Into the Haze. It comes in at 6.2% ABV, and this one, like I said, is another New England Hazy IPA. So yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. This is the third beer that I'm reviewing from Deya during this cycle of sort of Scottish and English beer reviews I'm doing for you just now. So far, in terms of Deya's own beers, I've reviewed the Invoice Me for the Microphone, which was very nice. That was given to me by Adam from Mersey Beers. Then when I came home this time I reviewed the Tappy Pils, which I thought was really nicely done. Then we had the Steady Rolling Man, which is their kind of signature flagship beer, and now we have this one. So yeah, I've heard that this one is pretty nice. And this is yet another beer that I picked up from the House of Trembling Madness down in York. An awesome beer shop if you can get there in person, but otherwise they've got a great web shop that has a very good range of things, and from what the English beer tubers tell me, it's one of the best value web shops that you'll find in England. So definitely check those guys out if you want to order yourself up some English beers. But yeah, very much looking forward to trying this one. Always nice to try some new beers from Deya, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well then. So let's see how we get on. 6.2% New England IPA, Into the Haze. So yeah, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Deya Brewing Company before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the English beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to quite a lot at the moment because I am enjoying a little bit of an extended period at home in the motherland of Scotland, so the English beers are very accessible to me at the moment, which is never a bad thing. They've got a great thriving beer scene down there just now. But as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Deya Brewing Company then, on to my brewery notes. So Deya Brewing Company, as I've told you before, are based in Cheltenham in Gloucestershire, which is a little bit to the kind of northeast of Bristol, if you want a point of reference. But the company was founded back in 2015 by Theo Frame. So he was introduced to craft beer by his dad, who brought some beers back from America that they used to drink together, and he decided that he wanted to brew beer for himself, and so he got some work experience at Threakston's Brewery, who are a very well-respected traditional English brewery, and then he actually went to enrol in the Brewing and Distilling programme at Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh here in Scotland, and that's a very popular route for craft brewers to get into the trade, if you like. But after this he worked for a while at 5 Points Brewing in Hackney down in London, and then for Odell's Brewery over in Colorado in America too, who are really quite well respected actually. But after a while he decided that he wanted to start up his own brewery, and initially it was Gypsy Brewing the Deya beers at a few different breweries in the Cheltenham area, but he later bought a brew kit from Harbour Brewing Company in Cornwall and then secured a premises which they opened up in 2016. Over the years though, they've continually expanded their capacity, and by 2019 they'd scaled up to 3,500 hectolitres, but they're currently equipped with a 34 BBL brewing system, and they've recently rented out the 2 units next to their current premises, and they're planning to expand this whole facility up to 30,000 hectolitres of beer per year over the next 10 years. They've also got a large tap room on site as well, which has really helped them drive the growth of the brewery through buying fermentation tanks and other pieces of infrastructure over the years, and that has helped them a lot actually. But the brewery itself is named after a village in Mallorca, and as of January 2021, when I'm reviewing this beer for you, they've produced just over 110 different kinds of beers according to Untappd, and the head brewer is Gareth Moore. So yeah, These guys, like I said to you, very, very well respected English craft brewery these days. One of the top kind of hazy New England IPA producers. I've had some really nice beers from these guys so far, and it is nice that, you know, finally I was able to do some dedicated reviews to this brewery. I'm hoping that on my England tour, if I'm going from Liverpool with Adam down to Bristol, hopefully we can maybe do a little detour and stop off at Deya Brewing and do a little bit of a kind of out and about video, maybe even a meet the brewery type thing. Actually, we'll need to see about that. I'll talk to Adam and see if that is possible, and then of course if the guys at Deya are able to do a kind of meet the brewery segment, that would be pretty damn awesome actually. So yeah, it would be pretty cool to have that for you on the channel as well, because these guys, as I say, are very, very well respected. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Deya Brewing Company for the moment. As I say, very well respected English brewery, but if you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. One series of beers that I really do need to check out from these guys the next time I'm home would be like the Saturated series. They've got Saturated in Citra, Galaxy and Motueka so far, I think, if I remember rightly. So yeah, I'll need to check out those the next time I make it home. So yeah, but in the meantime we have this one. So yeah, like I said to you at the start of the video, this one is a 6.2% New England IPA. It's hopped with Citra and Simcoe, and I think it should be really, really nice. But yeah, if you want to learn more about Deya, check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all those different beers. But in the meantime, here is a little quick look at the artwork of this one. There you can see Into the Haze, the sort of evil eyes thing. Looks a little bit like, you know, it reminds me, was it Gengar that ghost Pokemon was? I don't know why I remember that, but I remember it reminds me a little bit of Gengar. The eyes on this thing remind me of like Gengar from Pokemon. But I do like the kind of crocodile caiman thing that you have on here. That looks pretty cool. But it says on the side here, Into the Haze, our IPA, soft, juicy citrus and tropical fruit laden IPA in our house style. This beer has a clean malt structure, a peachy yeast esters and saturated presence of Citra and Simcoe. Refreshing, clean and beautiful to drink. So yeah, I think this one should be quite nice. I think this is part of their kind of core range that they have, but of course Invoice Me for the Microphone's been around for a long time. Steady Rolling Man is their kind of flagship beer almost, and this is one that just kind of caught my eye mainly. I wanted something else from Deya, and this was a regular IPA, so it caught my eye. So I think I actually still need to try a double IPA from these guys, come to think of it. So the next time, as I say, the next time I'm home, I'll see about getting some of the Saturated series if they are still brewing those. But yeah, 6.2% IPA, Citra and Simcoe in it. Simcoe, as we know, about 12% alpha acid, lovely kind of soft passion fruity notes when you put it in a New England type malt base, wheat and oats, and then Citra we know about 14% alpha acid, mangoes and lots of other little tropical complexities and things. But yeah, half litre can this one. I think this cost me about £5, so somewhere in the region of 55 Swedish kroners, about €5.50 and maybe $6 American if we're translating that into different currencies. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the taste, and then always nice to try different beers from Deya, of course. So let's go for it. Very curious about this one. There we go. Oh, that does look pretty good, I have to say. I think that should be about enough for just now to have a look at the aroma and everything like this, and we'll maybe put the rest of it in a little bit later on. But yeah, as you can see, this beer is poured pretty much exactly as you would expect from a New England IPA. So this one's a lovely kind of pale, I'd say it looks like a very kind of pale mango juice. I always like comparing these New England IPAs to different fruit juices, as you'll know if you've been watching the channel for any length of time. But yeah, this one really looks like a very kind of pale fruit juice kind of colour, to be honest with you. I really like pale, maybe a peach juice actually, because it does have a wee bit of that kind of orangey note to it. It's got a little bit of the light pineapple and a little bit of the kind of richer mango. But as you can see, this beer, it has maybe about a solid 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say slightly cream coloured head on this one. I don't know if I would describe that as perfect white. But yeah, one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there. But I mean, overall, it does look pretty nice. But yeah, the colour of this one is really nice. A little bit like a kind of mixed tropical fruit juice actually. But I guess you could say that this one does go together it does go together really quite nicely. The colour of your beer, of course, is dependent on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use, and two, the length of the boil of the wort, actually. So yeah, the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, thus you get a darker colour. But again, it's dependent on the type of malts that you use in the first place. But I have to say, the level of haze on this one for a 6.2%er is pretty impressive. The haze is dependent on the oats and the wheat usually, and it varies from brewery to brewery. But theoretically speaking, as you go up the alcohol scale, you get more wheat, you get more oats, so it should therefore be more hazy, but that is not always the case. But the level of haze here for a 6.2%er is pretty damn impressive, actually. So yeah, let's take a little look at the aroma of this one and see how we get on. Nothing overly surprising about this beer, but it certainly does look like a very nice example of a New England hazy IPA. So let's go for it then. Let's have a look at this. Yeah, lovely smelling beer. Straight away, it's just very, very nicely done. Yeah, straight away with this one then, you've got a really solid, you've got a lovely, just kind of very soft malt base. I always find that these Deya beers, they seem to have just like really soft and very nicely balanced malt bases. With New England IPAs, for me, you can get a few different directions. You get the sort of white, you get the barley malt orientated ones, the sort of white bready leaning ones, the more oaty creamy ones like the Treehouse stuff, the more wheaty and bitey ones like Trillium, then the more kind of rye orientated ones, kind of like Alchemist. You get the more yeasty, kind of farmhousey type ones. I'm trying to think. You sometimes get the more kind of brown sugary and oily orientated ones as well, actually. So there's quite a few different directions you can take these New England IPAs in. But for me, the Deya ones tend to be a blend of like soft oats and bready approach. These guys have got a really interesting way of taking the malt base here. But yeah, straight away with this one, lovely, soft, white bready quality to it. You can smell the nice kind of sweet oats, but if you take the aroma in just a little bit more deeply, you do get a little bit of the bitiness from the wheat, and it's just got a lovely smoothness to it, this beer. The backbone of this beer is very, very smooth. So yeah, a little bit of wheaty bitiness, absolutely. Soft white bread dominating though, and a little bit of that kind of oaty creaminess. You do get a wee hint of that kind of Werther's Original type vibe out of this beer, so I really like how, I do really like how that goes together in this one. So yeah, lovely. Yeah, it has just got a lovely sort of oily, it's got a lovely, just a little bit of a kind of oily Werther's Original type thing to it, but that'd just be the boozy alcohol notes coming out of it. But 6.2% in the aroma, this one is quite minimal actually, but I'm sure it will come out a little bit more in the flavour actually. But the malty side of this beer is very, very nice. As you'll know if you've watched the channel, I love to focus on the malt a little bit, because I think quite often everything is forgotten in favour of the hops. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, let's look at that. Citra and Simcoe, of course, is a very well-known combination. But with this beer then, there's a wee touch of earthiness, but really not a lot in this one. You've got a lovely big green component to this one, big kind of floral aromatic notes, which I think are great. It's not really spicy or anything, it is just really kind of big and aromatic, to be honest with you. There's a lot of soft kind of grassiness coming out of this beer for me, which I really, really like. And then you've also got just the lovely juicy fruity notes there. For me, the green side of this beer is quite floral and rather aromatic, so yeah. It gets a big thumbs up from me in that regard. I think it's really nicely done from that perspective. But yeah, quite floral and quite rich and full, but not spicy or not dank or anything like that. Just very bright and very floral in a lot of ways. But yeah, on the fruity side of things then, it is pretty much what you'd expect from these hops. I mean, you've got a lovely kind of very soft passion fruit from this one, that's the Simcoe. You do get a wee bit more pungency to it as well if you take the aroma in quite deeply, and that builds a good bridge with the wheaty bitiness. That slightly deeper passion fruity note that you get out of this one is pretty good, I have to say. But yeah, the aroma coming out of this beer, I think is very, very nice on the fruity side of things. Soft passion fruit, lovely big juicy mango from the Citra as well, and you do get a wee bit of zestiness out of this one. I do get a little bit of lime. It's interesting, Citra can sometimes give you lime depending on what it's kind of mixed with, of course, the malt base and the other hops and things, so I do get a wee touch of lime out of this one. I would have maybe guessed, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Motueka. Actually, this beer does smell as if it's got a wee bit of Motueka or Equinaut or something like that in it as well. But there is just a wee bit of a kind of lemony, grassy sort of thing to this beer as well, which is quite interesting. So it does have a wee zesty edge to it, this one. Absolutely, a little bit of a zesty edge there. But yeah, it goes together very, very nicely, I have to say. So yeah, nothing surprising about this beer, particularly in terms of its aroma if you know the brewery and you know the hops. But it's a very nice aroma that you get out of this one. So take a little bit of time to kind of ponder that over and enjoy it before you actually taste the beer. But yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. This one is the Into the Haze, a 6.2% New England IPA from Deya Brewing Company in Cheltenham in Gloucestershire, just towards the southwest of England. Not sure if that technically is the Midlands. I'm not so good with the counties in England. I know the big cities and stuff and where they are, but yeah, not sure about that county thing. So let me know about that in the comment section below. But anyway, let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Yeah, again, just a really, really lovely, solid beer from Deya. Yeah, I think that's, you know, really just very, very nice and really executed. Again, just really well executed, I should say. But yeah, for me, it seems to me that with these Deya beers, they're just, you know, they're very soft, they're very smooth, and they're very drinkable. That really seems to be the signature of this brewery for me. They remind me a little bit actually of some of these OO brewing ones I've had, like the 50/50 series and stuff. These beers are kind of like what the, you know, the Amazing Haze, the Narangi, and things like that. Like the first New England IPAs that we had in Sweden back in, you know, 2015, 2016. The Deya beers really remind me of that, to be honest with you. And that's probably why I enjoy them. I always enjoy, you know, Narangi was a great beer, and the Amazing Haze was as well. Well, it still is. They both still are. So yeah, this one really strikes me as it's like a more, it's a really bready orientated. I find this beer to be like a very bready kind of barley malt orientated New England IPA, and it is quite, you know, old school within this style category, to be honest. And that's what I really like about it. I think the yeast is playing a role in this as well, to be honest with you, because you do get a real smoothness and kind of softness at the back of the palate here too. So yeah, it's another cracking beer from Deya Brewing Company, and I've enjoyed all of the kind of pale ale and IPA type beers that I've had from them so far. Pardon me. What I will say though is, all of these beers have been really well done and really well crafted. I get a feeling that there are, you know, sort of crazier and more striking beers from Deya Brewing Company, and this is what makes me want to try the Saturated series, the double IPAs. I think, you know, in fairness, this one, I can't remember what Invoice Me for the microphone was, if that was 6 or 6.5, but yeah, I've not really gone above that in terms of ABV from this brewery yet, so I do get the impression that I need to try something that's maybe 7 or 8 to really get a real punch from this brewery. But in terms of sessionability and drinkability, I think Deya have got it down. They've absolutely got it down. So let me know what the real punchy beers, the kind of real kind of crazy ones are from this brewery. I'd love to have a look at these. As I say, I suspect the Saturated In series would be a good one to take a look at, and I'll have a look at those the next time I come home, of course. But yeah, this is, you know, very, very nicely done, I have to say. But yeah, it gets a big thumbs up from me, absolutely. But yeah, let's try and break down the flavour of this beer. Again, this one's, it's really nicely executed, but you know, nothing surprising in terms of the style, and you can't ask for much more than that these days. There's so many hazy beers on the market. But straight away with this one, you can feel that nice kind of smooth white bready base there. That blankets the middle of your palate. As you go towards the back of your tongue, you can feel in that border region between middle third and back third of your palate, there is a little bit of a slightly more kind of grainy, bread crusty sort of thing in there. But then as you move onto that back third of your palate, you can feel there's a little bit more of a kind of bread crust, a little bit more of a kind of wheaty presence to the beer. You can feel a little bit of that slightly thicker wheaty sort of thing there, but at the same time, it's quite a nice fluffy character that you get off it. You do get a really nice kind of fluffy, bready sort of thing to this beer too. So yeah, definitely a very nice kind of fluffy, bready sort of vibe to this beer as well. And that kind of sits there. I mean, you do get a little tiny bit of bitiness from the wheat there at the back of the palate, but really, like I say, these Deya beers for me are all more about the kind of soft bready and kind of softer yeasty components. I think it's the yeast that's giving you that slightly almost fluffy bready feeling in the back of the palate there. So yeah, I say it feels very fluffy, but then as you move into that middle third of your palate, you can feel the thickness just dropping away a little bit. You get a wee bit as you move further forward into the kind of middle third of your palate. Again, you feel that soft white bready note there, and you can feel on the front half of that middle third of your tongue, you get some of the more smooth, oaty notes coming out of this one. And yeah, you can feel, I can see what they're meaning about this one, about the yeast giving you some of the fruitiness in this. In the middle of your palate, it is quite interesting because you do get a little bit of fruitiness in there, so I can see exactly what they mean. But the yeastiness, there is a good yeasty presence to this beer, but in the very centre of your palate though, you can feel a little bit of the oats just kind of sitting there. It's almost like you've got a kind of sort of circle in the middle of your palate and a thin kind of oaty layer in there, which I really quite like. But then yeah, in the middle third of your palate, there's a little bit, you do get a wee bit of that Werther's Original kind of butter candy sort of thing, but not a lot. Like I say, this beer really leans towards that kind of fluffy, white bready sort of thing. It's very, very smooth. It's a lot less oaty actually than I thought it was going to be. The aroma gave you the impression of quite a bit of oats, but I think this really, it really does just come across as a bit more yeasty the more that I drink of it, to be honest with you. But I mean, regardless, it's a lovely, lovely tasting beer, this one. So a big thumbs up to Deya Brewing Company once again. They've got that yeasty and malty backbone of this beer just spot on. So yeah, let's focus on the hoppy side of things then. In the back corners of the palate, there is a little touch of earthiness there. As you move further forward, you get a wee bit of a herbal quality, but then as you reach the kind of front corners of the palate, you get a little bit more of a sort of you do get a little bit more of a kind of floral aromatic component to this one, and I think that works really well for this beer. Actually, I do think you get a nice, it's not madly bitter, this one, and these Deya beers aren't really, are not really bitter. I would love to try a West Coaster from these guys, a properly bitter West Coaster, and see how that went. But yeah, it's a very, as I say, this is just a very, very soft beer for me. You do get a little bit more kind of, pardon me, floral aromaticity on those front corners of the palate, but around the very front curve of the tongue, the beer is just a little bit lighter and grassy, which I think works very, very nicely. But yeah, it is really nicely executed for sure. So yeah, around the front curve of your palate, it does have a little bit of a softer kind of grassy component to it. The zestiness of that builds, I think, the further you go into the aftertaste with the beer, and then behind it on the front curve of the tongue, front third of your palate, you've just got a really nice little oily bubble there, and everything just kind of rolls out of your palate after that. So in that sense, it's really, it's just really interesting how all of that kind of pieces together. Actually, it's really, it is really quite well executed from that perspective. Actually, so yeah. I do like how this one kind of goes together actually. So yeah, the fruity side of this, the kind of fruity side of this beer just works. So if you go towards that kind of border region between middle third and front third of your palate, nice little bit of a, how do you say, there's a nice little bit of a, say, just a little bit more of a kind of grainy, white bready sort of thing. But as you move further forward from that, there's a little bit of a stronger kind of passion fruity quality, which I really like. You've got a nice little bit of a juicy mango in there as well. I think the passion fruit, the sort of slight pungency that you've got in the passion fruit of this beer, which will come both from the Citra and perhaps a little bit from the Simcoe incidentally, that lingers there. But as you move further forward, the juicy mango notes just kind of sit there too. But on the front half of that front third of your tongue, there's a nice little bit of a, you do get a little bit of a sort of lemony, zesty kind of thing in there, which is quite interesting. So you get quite a little bit of that coming out of the beer as well, and the zestiness builds the further you go into the aftertaste. It does have a wee bit of kind of lemony zest right on the front tip of the tongue that mixes in with the grassiness there. But yeah, the fruitiness it actually does, for the hops that are in here, it's got a little bit more zest to it than you would expect. But I would expect that most of that is coming either from the yeast or from the from Citra. I think Citra is the most likely one from the hops to contribute these kind of zesty qualities, to be honest with you. But yeah, I really like how this whole thing kind of pieces together, to be honest. So yeah, thumbs up to Deya Brewing Company for this one. I think it works out really nicely. But yeah, Very nice stuff, lovely stuff. So yeah, big thumbs up to Deya for this one. This beer, as I say, it doesn't do anything surprising with the style. It's just really nicely executed, and that's what we've come to expect from this brewery. Absolutely. So yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, I would describe this beer as being pretty much mid-bodied. The carbonation is very, very smooth, and the mouthfeel overall is very, very kind of smooth, which I really quite like. It's not creamy, but it's just a very, very smooth New England IPA, this one. It has a little bit of kind of wetness to it as well, which works very well. In terms of IBUs and things, I think this beer is, you know, a kind of standard 30-40 at a push IBUs. So yeah, it's again the bitterness. It does get a little bit more zesty, I think, and aromatic the further you go into the aftertaste, and I really like that about it. But smooth bready base, a little bit of oaty smoothness coming out of it later on, wee tiny touch of a Werther's Original sweetness, like I said, but you've got some nice fruity characters out of this. A little bit of tropical fruit, like I say, a little bit zesty. So yeah, kind of has everything that you would want from a New England IPA. So again, thumbs up to Deya Brewing Company for this. Like I say, I suspect that this is not the most punchy beer that you're going to come across, or the most kind of striking one from Deya Brewing Company. I do suspect they've got a few other things in their locker that perhaps I've not come across yet. So I'll need to have a wee go at the you know, the saturated in Citra, the saturated in Motueka, and saturated in Galaxy and stuff like this. I'll need to have a wee go at some of these. But yeah, irregardless, this one is a very, very nice beer, and I'm glad I got to try this for you on the channel. Always nice to try a few new things from Deya Brewing Company. So let's leave it there. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Deya, and we will of course return to these guys at some point fairly soon, but this probably will be the last Deya beer you'll see on this particular cycle of Scottish and English beer reviews, unless I somehow get delayed and have to stay in Scotland once again. But yeah, thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Check out my social media, let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below, let me know what other beers I should try from Deya, and I will catch you guys very soon. The Into the Haze 6.2% New England IPA, Citra and Simcoe, from Deya Brewing Company in Cheltenham in Gloucestershire, kind of towards the southwest of England. Slàinte, skål, cheers.